There is no doubt that Mark Latham, in my view, is one of the most outstanding contemporary figures in Australian politics. What is very rare is that, firstly, he does his homework, secondly, prosecutes the case, and thirdly, his research is personal and far beyond the standards set by any other politician in this country. On the 18th of September, last Friday, he took this very necessary debate about koalas, might seem unimportant, it's not, I can tell you, to another level. It's quite clear now that everyone had better start listening. This is one of the biggest policy shambles you could ever come across. And we are in Barilaro's debt. It's cost him his health because he suffered ringing abuse. Berejiklian, remember, is going to go to the Governor of New South Wales and sack the lot of them. But Mark Latham has amplified the issue. And I've read further stuff, which I'll come to in a moment. But Mark Latham said in the New South Wales Parliament, quote, "There was a time when the Liberal Party believed in free enterprise and uttered beautiful words like liberty, freedom and the rights of the individual. A lot of that," he said, "has been lost. We now arrive," he said, "at the ridiculous situation where the Liberals have given green bureaucrats poring over satellite images of our homes to specify a cluster of trees here or some grassland there, and they think this is somehow environmental policy. It's not," says Mark Latham. "It's economic and social control that's gone too far." He said in the Parliament, "The people they've listed are quite remarkable." Mark Latham said, "I knew Paul Grimes when he was in Canberra, working for the Labor Party. To think he's now Matt Keane, Liberal Matt Keane's environmental lieutenant, poring over satellite maps and doing these things in tandem with the planning minister," says Mark Latham, "is remarkable." Argued Mark, quote, "Paul has many qualities, but those beautiful words of freedom, liberty and the rights of the individual would not be among them." Says Mark Latham, "The fact that Mr Keane would employ such a person, no matter how well-intentioned, to do the work of today's Liberal Party on this front is quite remarkable." Mark Latham said in the Parliament, "It is a crisis of philosophy and belief. Those provisions have gone way too far." He said, "We've got millions of properties across New South Wales coloured pink on the maps. This week the truth is out. The maps are illogical. They're an intrusion. They're Orwellian. They're inaccurate. They're a disgrace." But the planning minister is standing by those maps as if they were holy grail. Mark Latham said, "You only have to go to the maps to see the absurdity, such as having koala habitats on roundabouts in Grafton, in the Warringah Mall, at Bankwest Stadium in Parramatta, at the Mount Hunter Fire Station and the church in my community." Argued Mark Latham, "There are koala habitats in massive swathes of residential areas, Liverpool, Green Valley and West Campbelltown." He said it's completely absurd. But he said, meanwhile, the real purpose of koala protection is being lost. There is inadequate koala protection for the real habitats. That has been released, he said, in the Keane-Stokes-Cumberland Plain Conservation Plan, which is completely inadequate. Meanwhile, as Mark Latham says, people just want to get on with their lives. He makes the point. Say you're living in Green Valley and you have a home renovation in mind, an extension for a granny flat or something out the back, you'll have to go through a koala assessment at a huge cost and concern just to do basic things in a place where nobody's seen a koala for 70 years. As Mark Latham said in the Parliament, the pink on the map is an indication of where the politics of the Liberal Party has got to. It is a threat to economic development and reasonable economic activity in the state. Says Mark, the planning minister is now thrashing around and saying, no, you need a minimum of a hectare. Well, as Mark says, if you need a minimum of a hectare, why are all those quarter-acre blocks in Liverpool, Campbelltown and other parts of Sydney coloured pink? The first thing that needs to happen, says Mark Latham, remove the maps. Secondly, tear up the SEP. Thirdly, put in an adequate koala protection corridor. Mark says, if John Barilaro and his colleagues are standing up against this madness, I am for them. I think they're doing a good public service. If they want to take on the Green Liberals in that effort, I think it's a very good thing. Says Mark Latham, because I cannot believe that the left wing in the Liberal Party, in terms of its belief and philosophy, could ever end up in this position. They may as well join the left wing of the Labor Party or the Greens themselves. That's where it's at. Mark joins me. And there may be some delay sometimes in Mark's response because he is actually on some device at home which I don't fully understand. Mark, good evening to you.
Good evening, Alan. Good to be with you.
You too. Brilliant stuff in the Parliament. And you said, I sometimes wonder why the Greens bother turning up. The Liberals do so much of their work for them.
Well, Alan, it's a characteristic of modern government. The more intrusive and complex it becomes, the more it relies on these technologies like satellite mapping and photographs of our property. You see, if someone wanted in government 15, 20 years ago, to declare a piece of land to be of environmental value, a human being had to come and visit the land. And say, well, these are the characteristics here that make it worthy of protection. Now, intrusive government, Big Brother Orwellian government, takes a picture from a satellite of the property. No one visits the property. And now you've got this situation in New South Wales where millions of property owners, for instance, farmers, residential people who know their land like the back of their hand, have been told, oh, no, because we've got a satellite photo of your place, we know exactly the environmental value of it. We know the clump of trees there that could have a koala by chance. Something drops from the sky, a koala lands in the tree. Therefore, we're going to protect it and put extra development costs and restrictions on your land. Now, people quite rightly are outraged by this. People know their own land. People should be in control of their own land, not big government, Big Brother with the satellite map. We've not a single person in the bureaucracy who visits any of these sites.
See, Mark, I've got a very bright young lawyer who wrote to me and he said, if you've got land of over 1 hectare and you've got no koala management plan over it and you lodge a development application in relation to that land, you've got to provide the council with a report before any consent to a DA can be given. You've got to meet that cost. You've got to furnish the council with a report. It's got to contain a survey of any koalas present on the land, or it's got a report of a tree survey. And they have these feed tree species for the koalas. And I understand if these trees have a 15% coverage of the land, that will deem the land a koala habitat. I mean, this silly woman that's resigned from the National Party, she wouldn't have even read any of this.
Well, the Liberal Party did in her electorate of Port Macquarie, in the hinterland there. It's all coloured pink, restrictions and extra costs on property owners. So the Liberal Party did in her electorate. So she went and joined the Liberal Party. So I don't know what sort of representative she is, but when you say you have to get a koala plan, well, that's the first human being outside of your property who actually visits your land. And in the hands of a Green Labor council, Alan, it's deadly. It's not just the cost. You'll be knocked back. You won't get your development application through a Green council who thinks animals are more important than human beings.
Well,
who thinks that the environment's more important than jobs. So it's a complete disaster.
Absolutely. Look, if a koala had been sighted on the land over the last 18 years, that makes that land a koala habitat. And when that starts, your land then is regulated by the government. Your land becomes under the Environmental Protection Authority Regulation 108. You're swept into this biodiversity conservation jargon, and you're gone.
Well, absolutely. And it's not just 18 years. There's tracts of land to the west of Liverpool where nobody's seen a koala for 70 years. And some of those landowners, it's like the Liberal government's put a curse on them. I've got a mate of mine who lives near Badgerys Creek Airport at Bringelly. He's a greyhound trainer, so they tried to destroy him and the industry with the Mike Baird ban. He's near the Badgerys Creek Airport, but his land hasn't been released for rezoning, unlike the areas further north and east. And now he's coloured pink for koala protection. Now, this is a guy battling away. He works for the local council. He's down to earth, just wants to be left alone by government to race his dogs and run his property. And you've got these three levels of intrusion. Alan, sometimes I think Bob Menzies, wherever he is, must look back and think, I tried to create a party of free enterprise and liberty. I completely and absolutely wasted my time.
Absolutely.
Because the Liberal Party now bears no resemblance to the thing that Menzies tried to create. And in the instance of this poor chap at Bringelly, west of Liverpool, they're doing him in the neck, not once, twice, 3 times. And he must think, this is the equivalent of some sort of crazy green liberal socialism.
Absolutely. Well done, Mark. We're in your debt, my friend. This is the only man that's prosecuted. John Barilaro's off sick. They've attacked him. It's disgraceful stuff. And I challenge anyone out there to read the stuff and do some homework. Mark, great to talk to you.